The final countdown tour for the American Dragon Bryan Danielson leads him to Wembley at All In to wrestle for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship against Swerve Strickland. So what does that mean for Bryan Danielson? Is this an opportunity to become a part of the AEW World Title lineage? Or is this the final countdown and he gets stomped out by Swerve Strickland? We're going to talk about that, but before we do, I'm Rob, the Wrestling Old Head. You have entered the portal of pro wrestling, all the time. This is the community for you, so let's talk about it. Bryan Danielson. Wow, a lot of the stuff that's been going on with AEW since this past Wednesday, I must give him a hats off here because it's been very unpredictable. And I did not, if you would have put on the bingo card Bryan Danielson against Swerve Strickland, I wouldn't have got it. I'll tell you that much because I wouldn't have seen it coming. To me, looking on, I was thinking, man, we would have seen Swerve Strickland against Will Ospreay in a rematch. I really thought we were going to see that. I thought they would have inserted Will Ospreay in as the wild card for the Owen Hart Cup tournament, had him beat Jeff Jarrett, and then move on to wrestle Swerve in a rematch and give Ospreay the win in Wembley. Then as the matches, as the wild card was revealed to be Hangman Adam Page, I said, oh, well, here we go. Foregone conclusion. Hangman Adam Page is now going to move on, and he's going to wrestle Swerve Strickland in Wembley, and then he's going to probably lose, and Swerve gets his big win, and then sends Hangman Adam Page further down in his new role and his character. And then that didn't happen. He loses to Bryan Danielson, and now I'm scratching my head, but in all honesty, it's refreshing. It's really nice, because these things that I've easily been able to predict from AEW are now not so predictable. So I must tip my hat off to Tony Khan. If he has a plan, if this is the plan in place to keep people guessing and on the edge of their seat, hey, he's got me, man, because this all-in card, I can't figure it out for the life of me. I'm all on the edge of my seat trying to figure out how it's going to go. If I was able to do a video about predicting AEW All-In's pay-per-view lineup, man, the video would probably be 55 minutes long of most of me going like, I don't know, because I wouldn't be able to guess. It would be so hard. First of all, they have 15 matches anyway. So trying to predict 15 matches is going to take me an hour. It's going to be a whole podcast of me trying to figure out these matches and where each guy goes. I'm going to have spreadsheets and my computer's open and all this crazy stuff is going to have to happen. It's going to be like the freaking Zapruder films for JFK or freaking Charlie Day and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with the boards and the arrows and everything going around like that meme. It would be so hard to try and predict, but it's cool to do that. It's refreshing. Instead of being able to go like, oh, I see where this is going, I like that he's throwing us aloof. He's keeping us guessing, keeping us on our toes, and I think that's really important in wrestling. I think that's needed. So with Swerve Strickland against Bryan Danielson apparently headlining AEW's All In Wembley Stadium, who's going to win? And that's the question on everybody's mind. Now, I know American Dragon Bryan Danielson has been very selfless. He has been, he hasn't been selfish at all. He has been one of the guys that has been stating that he wants to help the younger talent and he wants to do his part, but he does not want in the spotlight in the way that we have all envisioned him being one of the top stars in AEW, and with his pedigree, somebody that you would think would be a part of the world title history at the very least to legitimize the AEW World Heavyweight Championship more than it already has. If you look at the guys that have held the AEW World Heavyweight Championship, Jon Moxley, Chris Jericho, Kenny Omega, Hangman Adam Page, Samoa Joe, CM Punk, probably one of the biggest ones. And say what you will about CM Punk, hey, that guy did a lot for AEW, and historically, probably one of the biggest names AEW was able to get. Wish he would have been there a lot longer. And I also wish Cody Rhodes would have been a part of AEW's world title history as well. Apparently that was his call not to be in the world title picture because of his status as EVP, but regardless of that, he should have been a part of it. So you've got all of these guys tied to the AEW world title lineage, and Bryan Danielson not being a part of it is, I don't see how you justify it, to be completely honest, especially with him on his way out. He needs to have at least one world title run. He's young enough. This isn't like a John Cena retirement tour here that he's doing. In all respect to John Cena. John Cena should try to get his 17th World Heavyweight title and beat that record. If anybody should do it, it should be John Cena. But we're not here to talk about John Cena. We're here to talk about Bryan Danielson. And he's younger. And he deserves to be a part of the world title history. I think it would further legitimize the AEW World Heavyweight title. And just in the annals of history to look back and say guys like Samoa Joe, Bryan Danielson, CM Punk, Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley, Kenny Omega held the World Heavyweight title in their hands it's important. It is important. So if they're going to do that, do they do that at Wembley? And I feel like they're painting themselves in a corner here, but you have given Swerve a title reign. He has some great wins over Samoa Joe, over Christian Cage, and over Will Ospreay recently. So, and possibly over Kazuchika Okada coming up next week, 250th episode of AEW Dynamite. So you could say that you did all you can to make Swerve a threat, and then you give Bryan Danielson a quick run as the AEW World Heavyweight Champion. So then he's in the history books, and with the gun to his head, because Tony Khan, I'm sure, is forcing him to do this right now because of how selfless Bryan Danielson is. Then you give him a quick run, transitional, if you will, maybe having Nigel McGuinness, because I really thought we were going to see Nigel McGuinness against Bryan Danielson. I thought we were for sure going to see that. Have you seen Nigel McGuinness recently? The guy's in stellar shape. And he's revved up talking all the kinds of shit about Bryan Danielson on Collision's commentary. So I thought for sure, especially when he was on commentary at AEW Dynamite this past Wednesday, I was like, oh yes, he's going to get involved, or Bryan's going to be frustrated, he's going to kick tables, and Nigel's going to get a mouth off in his face, and they're going to have a big old brawl, and it's going to be broken up, and that's going to lead to the match. I thought for sure we were going to see that. My WWE programmed brain, I thought for sure we were going to see a big pull-apart brawl between Nigel McGuinness and Bryan Danielson, and then it was going to lead to the match. But they didn't go that route. And so now with this, I feel like you have to give Bryan Danielson a shot to at least hold the title, and at Wembley it would be historic. And then you pivot to giving Swerve another shot, or you pivot to Will Ospreay now, you know? I mean, there's so many different routes you could take, but I don't know, man. I just feel like you need to give Bryan Danielson a shot at being a part of the history of the AEW World Heavyweight title. But I think they paint themselves into a corner because I don't know if Swerve can afford the loss. Even though he's got a couple of big wins, it is a pretty short title reign. At this point, if he were to lose to Bryan Danielson, I think, wouldn't that be the shortest title reign in AEW history? And I don't know if you do that with Swerve. So it's a tough decision to make. But I made my stance on it. I think Bryan Danielson needs to be a part of the history, and I think he needs the World Heavyweight title. I think he needs it. I think AEW needs to have Bryan Danielson with the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. Let me rephrase that. Bryan Danielson does not need the AEW World Heavyweight title. But AEW needs Bryan Danielson to have the AEW World Heavyweight title, if that makes sense. So I think you should go with that. That's my opinion. But I don't know if they're going to go with that, and I actually think they're going to go with Swerve retaining. At this point right now, if you ask me, we're not doing predictions. And, my opinions are very fluid, and I'll be the first to say that I could say that right now, that I think that Swerve retains, and then later on I could come back and I could say the opposite. And I'll call back. I'll recall saying this, and then I'll say, hey, I know I said this, but now I'm saying this. Because that's being honest, and I think I should be honest about this at this very moment. I don't think they're going to give Bryan Danielson the win, but I think they should. Because I think that's the right call to make. But we'll see what happens, man. I don't know what they're doing with MJF and Will Ospreay. I thought that was going to be at All In Wembley, and I'm here it's going to be next week. You've got Pac with an international championship match. So you're going to do Pac and Will Ospreay at All In? I don't know. Do you do Pac and MJF at All In? I don't know who's going to be the international champion by the time you get there. A lot of people were saying that All In is coming up. All In is about a month and a half away. Am I wrong? Isn't it at the end of August? So you got a long time to build up these matches, and they're already saying these matches are going to happen. We might not have Swerve Strickland as the World Heavyweight Champion by the time we get into All In. You guys ever think about that? It might not be Bryan Danielson against Swerve Strickland. It might be someone else against Bryan Danielson for the World Heavyweight Championship. You ever think about that? They might be setting up all kinds of different possibilities. Ricochet's coming in. You got whoever that one guy, though, that they did that Player One type of a promo where that guy was jumping into the screen, came out with a Power Rangers mask. Although I've heard a lot of rumors that was Arami or Aramis. I don't know. I thought it was Sammy Guevara or the guy that formerly known as Scripps or Reggie from NXT. I thought it was going to be something like that. They were saying it was going to be Ricochet. I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think you repackage Ricochet like that. I think he comes in as Ricochet. That's just my opinion. But Bryan Danielson, yeah. If you ask me right now, I'm saying it's going to be Bryan Danielson. Oh, I'll do a whole video on this AEW All-In prediction, but I'm telling you it's going to be a long video. But if you guys will stick with me, I'll do it. I'll tell you that. You let me know in the comments if you want to hear a video about that. I'll break it down. I'll do my homework and everything. Scout's honor. But what do you guys think? Do you guys think Bryan Danielson is going to be the AEW World Heavyweight Champion at the conclusion of AEW All In? Do you think Swerve Strickland will be the AEW World Heavyweight Champion by the time All In rolls around? You guys let me know in the comments. Thumbs up on the way out, you guys. To everyone that has subscribed thus far, man, I could not do this without you guys. We're going to keep growing this. Check the community tab. Get the notification button so you're aware of all of the special announcements that I'm going to have going forward so that you're up to date on all of that. Podcasts are on the way. The Portal of Pro Wrestling podcast is coming soon. All of this, I couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you guys again. Let's keep growing this community. It does not stop here. It only gets better, you guys. Wrestling fans, stay united, and I'll be talking to you real soon. Stick around.